Module 2, Part 2, Research Problem and its Scope. Yes, the continuation video from last week. So we tried to introduce this three group of words. We have the research problem, research objectives, research questions. So let's continue right away. The research problem is the statement about the specific issue of an unfavorable condition that will be given attention in the study. So the one that you try to solve or to fix, and you would attempt to do this in your research project. Your research question then is that specific question that leads and guides you on how you would collect your data, and then this data will be your basis for analysis whether you would affirm or negate, accept or reject your hypothesis or your assumption. This is also referred to as the research problem written in interrogative form or in question form. And it is needed to be answered using the data you collected, like we said. Okay. In writing research questions, your independent and dependent variables involved should be clearly and properly used in the question. Okay, this is an example of a written objectives of the study. We mentioned about it as research question, but when you write your questions into statements, it then turns to your research objectives. So your objectives. Some books, some papers write their objectives in question form. Some write it in statement form. But it is okay to write it in both. For this one, this is a statement form. So these specific objectives here started from specific questions that you write. Okay. So research problems. There are many sources of problems, like the two forms we mentioned last meeting, the looking for unfavorable condition, and the second one is to look for related sources. So there's still many areas to look at, especially when you look for something to start with. So just like everybody else feels, I also would feel it hard to start, especially when we look at a potential source of problem, because there are so many things to consider. But the first one, we have to tap into the things that interest us. So what interests us? What fields of studies interest us? So this starts with the field of specialization that interests us, and not just interests us, but something that we know a lot, or just about enough, because it really is not just with the interest. To be able to create good questions, you must have a good amount of knowledge about it. So the field of specialization that you like, and the one that you have knowledge of. Okay. Also, you can talk to people who are in the field, or the people you know. So you can have a short interview, or just a quick question like, what things are you curious of when they're about their work. For example, you know someone who is a doctor, or who works at the Department of Fisheries, or the DNR also. So you can talk to those people on what are the current things that they're working on, or what current problems they may experience, and then you can start with that. And you can even work with them if they want. So you can ask that. Na ang mga institutions na nag-look sila look for researchers, especially mga government nga institutions na uban ana nga nag-look sila o nangita sila og mga researchers para mo observe ani nga data. Unya, tagaan nila og funding. So you can apply for that. It would be good kung makakita mo also. Number 3, collateral reading. You would, if wala mo matap nga mga tao, you can again go to sources you can do read, because like I said, it's not just the interest that would fuel you. It also, you need a good amount of knowledge to pursue that specific topic. Okay, so if you would like to study about plants, you need all those knowledge about plant biology, or just enough para maka-continue ka kay you have a good knowledge of plants, then you know that plants are affected by some factors para matubo sila. So basic na nga siya nga knowledge. You can do extensive or intensive reading. Extensive, you cover a range of topics for setting background purposes. You read wide range of topics, so you'd start selecting, and then as you have target locked a single topic, for example plants, and you want to study about phytochemicals, or the chemicals in secondary chemicals in plants that have potential medical applications, you would then dive into intensive reading and have selected themes that you'd consider to read in depth with analysis and evaluative purposes. So you can then go to a more specific, mag-read na kaog about what are the different types of phytochemicals, what are those plants nga daghan og potential para naay mga medicinal purposes and benefits na. Or number 4, you can go and observe existing practices of people. So you can observe, you can ask mga tao sa balay, inyong lulo ug lula, unsay gamiton nila nga tambal sa una o karon kanang magsakit ang tiyan, magsakit ang ulo, kanang mga hampol ba karon, or kanang magtuob. So you can try to ask about their opinion, and dito nimo magkuha din mag observation and inspiration pa karon nga kana ba inyong gustong studihan, kana ba gusto ninyong i-prove kung sakto ba ilang mga traditional mga practices, kay na ba siya yung medical scientific claim nga wala na natanaw, kay para nila kay nasanaandan lang, pero ibo na yung tanaw na sakto jud di ay kay naa di ay medicinal property ang ilang mga tanom may panghampol o ginana. Number 5, so you can then also look, just like what you always do, we look at published and unpublished research reports. We can go to journal sites. We can also we can tap in people nga nag-study, and if you have friends from other schools and nag-do sila research, unsay ilang research, and you can get an inspiration but not copy from the work that they are doing. Okay, and then as you have nanamoy potential nga topic, you then consider these 2 words, feasibility and worthwhileness. So is a topic that you have chosen worth doing, or can you do it in the given time that you're allowed to do the project? Can you do it within the budget, within your abilities, your technical abilities? For example, you need a lab, you must be able to have a good you have na siya mga technical considerations like the lab itself, biosafety cabinets, or the technical knowledge of using some instruments, or the presence of the instruments themselves. So imo na siya i-consider feasible ba siya, makaya ba nimo siya within sa nimong time, sa imong resources, sa imong abilities, or is it worthwhile, is it worth pursuing, or is there something that is connected gani siya sa imo? So when you are connected to that topic, kay it would somehow be less burdensome to you because you're interested doing it. So all the efforts that you do, kay labi na ganahan kay kasi imong topic, so dili na kay ka maghunahunaan nga ay kapoy ay daghan kay buhaton ni nana. So you look for the topics that interest you, the one that kana makaya sa imong level para sad makapadayon. So in these 2 words, feasibility and worthwhileness. Worthwhile ba siya para nimo kung buhaton nimo siya in that period of time? Is it worth doing? Okay, and then when you ask, so we have a problem and you have chosen a problem. These are key characteristics that you have to consider when you ask your specific questions within your problem. So the acronym for this one is SMART, S-M-A-R-T. So SMART is specific. S stands for specific. Are you clear with what you want to do? What would you like to observe? Is it the plant part? Is it the whole plant, or is it just the leaf, just the roots, or just the eggshells paron, or just the mga banana peels, not the banana fruit inside? So specific ka sa imong pag-state sa question. I would like to observe the growth, the height only, or i-observe mo ninyo ang mass sa yield niya. So, and then, you consider the next letter, M, measurable. How will you know when you've reached it? So, all these, when you ask for mga height, you know you can measure it. You can use a ruler or other measuring devices. So, ma-attainable lagi siya, mabuhat siya, ma-measure na to siya nga makabantay jud ni taas ang plant kay ni usab jud ang height from shall we say 5 centimeters. Pag sunod nga week kay nahimo na siya nga mga 5.5 centimeters. So gamay ra ang tubo, but you're able to observe it empirically nga nausab jud because you're able to measure it. Not as the same with mga mga abstract concepts ba karon, happiness or inana, pwede mo na sila ma-measure. You can magamit na sila o mga rating scales, mga Likert scales, inana mo sa day gigamit sa uban na mga type of studies, especially sa mga social o sa mga psychology ng mga research. Okay, so sa sa STEM, sa mga scientific or experimental research, we do on observable, measurable data. So, arita sa mga the physical quantities that we call mga height, mass, time, aspects of time, mass, volume, mga physical quantities nga ma-measure, and then we can get different types of data. More on nominal data, but there are also types of other data. Basta siya ma-measure. Next, achievable. Is it in your power to accomplish it? So when you ask that question, you observe nimo ang biodegrading capacity ba karon sa imong gihimo nga solution, but sa imong pag-research kay ang effects dahil sa pag-biodegrade kay mo take pa ba nag 10 years or pila pa ka years. So itong student naman ta, so kay as much as possible within the school year. So is it achievable in the time span that you're given to accomplish your project? So mangita ka other alternatives, or you try to tweak some portions of the research nga ma-fit siya sa imong time, sa imong finances ba karon, o sa makaya sa inyong group. By the way, ang kanang biodegradable nga i-degrade ang kanang material, naapod uban nga mo take lang about mga months. Mag-research lang pod mo sana sila ang gamiton. Kay naman po i-add nga para mo paspas pod. Next, realistic. So can you realistically achieve it? So this is related to the feasible criteria, the achievable and realistic. Okay, mabuhat ba nimo siya, or dili ba siya makaya sa tong abilities, need ba gyud siya og mga high tech na instruments yan basin dili na to mabuhat sa atong school, or need ba siya og outside earth ba karon observation. So karon dili man nato siya mabuhat. So they're realistic with what is in the context, what is around you, what you have at the moment. Okay, But at the same time, kung realistic ta, na po tayo ambition na gamay nga mo kuan nindot po ang result. Okay, a good amount of that. Okay, and lastly, timely. So is it the time boundedness? Okay, when you ask your research question, you namoy target nga maigo ninyo ang specific timeline sa inyong sa inyong goal nga ma-finish inyong research. When exactly do you want to accomplish it? Is it in the next year? Is it within a week? So inana siya. Okay. Again, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, or timely, or time-boundedness. Okay. Achievable also kay sa other nga mga books kay attainable. Next, there are still other beautiful words to describe a good research problem, and you can read this in the module or the reading activity that I gave you. Mostly manggod kay na ato na pud siyang na encounter and pretty self-explanatory na pud siya. The main keywords is that this is feasible sa imo, and then something that interests you, and then measurable siya, unsa ba? Measurable, time-bound, all this. Kung feasible ba siya worthwhile. Ma-summarize na siya dito. Okay. This is an example of a research problem. So you don't really have to start yourself with a 2-paragraph research problem. Mas better kung specific. Diba? So, okay na jud ang 1 paragraph. This one, for example, leaching is a process by which substances like nutrients and minerals are carried through the bottom of the soil when water comes in. So you're talking about this process of leaching, and it can occur between fertilizers in soil and pose a bigger problem in farming, because the farmers will be happy during the wet season in the Philippines, but since we are prone to typhoons in these months, heavy rains could occur wherein fertilizers can be carried to the bottom of the soil, leaving less or no more fertilizer left for the roots of the plants to absorb. So, mapunta noon siya sa ilalom and the deeper parts of the soil layer nga dili na maabtan sa roots unya. Ang dili maka-benefit ang plant, madaot pa jud ang quality sa soil nimo, o labi na ma-contaminate pa gyud niya ang una pa kay groundwater underneath. So this could be a big problem. So you try to then, nakita na ka sa imong unfavorable condition sa imong community, you then formulate your research questions on what could you do about this leaching problem. So this is an example of research questions. Ang iyang gibuhat kay, what is the first question? What is the surface morphology of biochar from Indian almond shells? So nagamit siya kuno specifically Indian almond shells. Unya nigi biochar niya, and then i-observe niya ang unsay effect ani niya sa soil quality. So number 1, i-observe sa niya ang unsay forma, unsay surface morphology ani niya nga yang gibuhat na product. Number 2, what is the water holding capacity of the biochar? So makahold ba ni siya water? So yang gi-measure. And then number 3, leaching capacity of the soil with and without Indian almond shells biochars, iyang gimixan. So malesen ba ang pag-leach sa, for example, say mga butangan ba niya standard fertilizer. I haven't really read this study, but this is one of the examples posted in your module. So muna yung specific niya nga questions. Nangita siya og mga solutions para sa leaching problem, and then for you to be able to have these words nga mga water holding capacity, leaching capacity, surface morphology, na jud ka dapat o good working knowledge about ani nga topic sa leaching. So mao siya, again, like I said, interest is something you would start with, but your aptitude or your knowledge with the topic itself mo na gyud na ang mag-guide nimo para mas maka-write pa ka better o mga good na mga o better na mga research questions. So read and read and read. Okay. Characteristics of good research questions. So, your research questions, again, feasible, claro, significant, ethical. And feasible, it can be studied within the time, the energy, and the money. Clarity, your keywords, your variables are well placed. Number 3, significant ba siya? Na ba siya benefit na makuha? Shall it provide a significance or benefit after nimo siya buhaton? Na ba siya mahatag nga usefulness? Number 4, ethical. So, of course, we have this mga considerations, okay? So you must not, you would consider if ang imo bang nature sa imong research kay ethical ba siya, dili ba ka makaharm sa other mga species, mga creation. So makaharm ba ka karon sa environment or sa other human beings or sa humans? So it must not involve physical or psychological harm or damage to any of these. Okay. And then after that, if you had your research questions, you then translate it into research objectives or your statement of the problem. Your research topic and or research problem becomes the basis, the basis of your objectives or the statement of the problem. The statement of the problem in most writings start with introductory clauses like this research study aims to investigate more paraphrase sa imong title, and then din siya, this study specifically aims to answer the following, and so pwede questions are next or pwede po statement form. So this one, produced biochar from Indian almond shells, mauna ni siyang this is the guide kung unsay mahitabo sa imong data gathering. Objective man nato siya, mao ni siya atong unsay tumong nato sa atong research. Okay, number 1, gusto niya mag-produce og biochar. Okay, research ang unsa ng biochar from Indian almond shells. Number 2, determine the physical qualities of biochar, specifically surface morphology, shape, and pore size. So naghimo siya sa product, iya gi-observe unsay nawong, unsay forma, mga pore size, physical qualities of that product. And then number 3, i-test niya ang water holding capacity of that biochar. And then number 4, determine the leaching capacity of soil with biochar. So kung effective ba siya. Okay. So specific na nga, once it's like a guide on what are you going to do within your paper and within the actual data gathering. Naghimo siya, gi-observe niya, gi-test niya ang capacity sa product, and number 4, gi-test niya kung effective ba siya kung ibutang na siya sa soil. Okay. You have a clear sense of what you're going to do. So from a good question, nadadan ka a good objective. So you'd really be looking at these first words that you were going to use here, mga verb nimo, produce, determine, test, determine. So use these clear and observable words. Good. Do not use words nga mga like understand, learn, reflect on, reglisod na learn. Kay dili magud siya observable, then how are you going to understand? So dapat, or mas nindot jud ang specific. So you measure you test you produce, you create, or you install something So para clear jud unsay buhaton. Okay, variables. So when you have chosen your topic, your questions, you would be starting to look at your setup na imong buhaton. As we have learned, the things that we're going to observe, na siya mga main na kung sa story pa, main characters of the story. So pwede na kay factors or mga components sa whole story of your research. So for example, this title, the yield of Kappa ficus cultured in Cebu marine waters using lantay method and hanging method. So makita na din sa title nga, unsa din ni about? It's this species, unsa man siya, red algae, or ano siya kanang gusto man siguro ni according to the picture. So yes, so imo gi-measure ang yield nito gipadaghan ba niya, and yet the researcher considers at doing these two types of methods, lantay method and hanging method, guro ni sa pagpatubo niya dito siya sa Cebu marine waters, maybe a specific place guro in Cebu. Okay, so this research problem, this research problems that we choose, you should arise from natural events around us. And then to understand a complex phenomenon or natural event, it is important to know what comprises it, and there is a need to learn each of them. So these components are what is known to be mga variables. So variables sa imong gi-observe nga phenomenon. So what variables do you think are studied here in this title? So what is a possible research problem considered? So as mentioned kanina, ano siya, ang mga variables for the independent variable, ang imong species nga Kappa ficus, ang type of method, lantay method, hanging method. Dayon diri sa dependent, yung yield, ang weight. Okay? So mo ni ang imong the one that you would, the predicting variable and the outcome variable. So ang atong mostly nailhan nga mga variable kani si independent o dependent variable. In the true experimental type of research, would really like to have this direct cause and effect relation nilang duha nga si independent variable cause this change, observable change in a dependent variable. But it's not always the case, because this in a system or an environment, there are other factors that would affect. So as much as possible, ato siyang i-control. So there are other types of variables, the one that works in between. Okay, for a while.